You've been told that people fall in love with beauty, with the perfect smile, with the perfect body, or maybe with wealth, status, the promise of safety and success. And maybe, for a moment, those things do attract. But if you've lived long enough, you already know they don't last. The truth is harder. People don't fall in love with your face. They don't fall in love with your bank account. They don't even fall in love with the words you say. They fall in love with something else. Something quieter, something you almost forget you even carry. And here is the uncomfortable secret. There are only two reasons someone truly falls in love with you. Only two. Not beauty, not money, not the endless little performances you've been told to perfect. Two reasons, that's it. And the moment you hear them, you'll realize that every great love story of your life, whether it lasted or not, was built on them. And that every failed relationship was missing at least one. Think back. The people you were drawn to, it wasn't just their looks, it wasn't just their charm. It was how you felt when you were with them. The way they opened a space in you. The way you felt more alive, more real, more seen. That's what you're secretly searching for. That's what everyone is searching for. And if you don't understand these two reasons, you'll spend your life polishing the wrong things, fighting for the wrong attention, chasing a kind of love that dissolves the moment something shinier appears. But once you see it, once you understand why people really fall in love, you stop performing. You stop begging to be noticed. You start creating connections that are undeniable because they are human, raw, and real. In the next few minutes, you're going to see through the illusions. You'll see why almost everything society told you about attraction is backwards. You'll discover what truly makes someone's heart open to you, and you'll understand how to stop hiding behind beauty and money and start radiating the two things that can't be faked. Two reasons, nothing more. And if you're ready, let's begin. The illusion of love. You've been trained since childhood to chase illusions. You were told that love is won by being attractive, by becoming desirable, by earning enough to look safe in someone else's eyes. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by this script. The clothes you choose, the way you compare yourself in the mirror, the silent competition you feel when someone more beautiful or successful enters the room. You try to look perfect. You try to sound impressive. You try to become the kind of person that no one could possibly reject. And yet, rejection still comes. Or worse, attraction that fades. Because beauty has an expiration date. And wealth only keeps people interested until someone with more walks by. If love could be bought with status or symmetry, then no relationship would collapse in the arms of the rich and the beautiful. But you know it does, every day. And here is the haunting truth. The more you chase love with these illusions, the more invisible you become. Because deep down, nobody falls in love with a performance. Nobody builds a life around a mask. It feels almost cruel, doesn't it? To spend so many years sculpting yourself into something admirable, only to discover admiration is not the same as love. That's why the world feels so lonely, even when surrounded by people. That's why you can be desired, but still feel unseen. That's why you can collect praise and yet never taste intimacy. The illusion of love is the belief that you can engineer affection with surface tricks, that you can control another's heart by presenting your best version. But the heart doesn't surrender to beauty or money. It surrenders to something else, and when you finally understand what that is, the performance falls away. You stop polishing yourself for the gaze of strangers. You begin to notice something deeper, moving beneath the surface. This is the doorway, the place where illusion ends and truth begins. If this realization speaks to you, subscribe here, because every week we go further into the truths most people are afraid to face. The first reason, think about the people you've loved, not the fleeting crushes, not the fantasies, but the ones who reached you in a way you couldn't explain. What was it really? It wasn't their face, It wasn't their resume. It was the way you felt in their presence. The first reason someone falls in love with you is simple but devastatingly overlooked. They fall in love with how they feel about themselves when they are with you. Notice that carefully. Not how they feel about you, but how they feel about themselves. When someone feels freer, lighter, more alive in your presence, they are drawn to you like water to thirst. When you give them the silent permission to be fully themselves, they cannot help but return to you. It isn't a choice, it's gravity. And here lies the tragedy of so many relationships. Most people are so busy trying to perform, trying to impress, trying to prove their worth, that they forget the only thing the other person is really noticing is how you make them feel about who they are. Think of it like a mirror. If every time someone looks into you, they see the version of themselves they long to be, unafraid, unashamed, alive, then they will mistake you for magic. And maybe you are. But if, when they are with you, they feel smaller, judged, unseen, or compared, then no amount of beauty or wealth will keep them there, because nobody is addicted to another person. They are addicted to the self that awakens in their presence. This is why some people can walk into a room without saying a word, and others lean toward them, almost unconsciously. It isn't charisma, it isn't tricks. It's the unspoken gift of space, the way they allow others to breathe more deeply, to relax into who they already are. And if you look back at your life, you'll notice it too. The ones you couldn't forget weren't necessarily the most attractive. They were the ones who made you feel a little more yourself, a little more real, a little more at home in your own skin. This is the first secret, the first reason love takes root, the first reason someone chooses to stay, not beauty, not money, but the way you reflect them back to themselves, without judgment, without expectation, without demand. And if you understand this, you stop chasing validation. You stop sculpting yourself to win approval. Instead, you begin to ask, how does my presence make others feel? Because that is where attraction begins, and that is where love finds a home. If this is already shifting how you see love, share your reflection in the comments below. Your words might be the reminder someone else desperately needs to hear. The second reason. The first reason is how you make someone feel about themselves. But the second reason is even rarer. It's the one thing almost nobody practices anymore because the world has forgotten what it even means. People fall in love with you because of your presence, not your opinions, not your achievements, not the distractions you offer, but the quiet, unwavering way you are with them. Think about the last time someone really listened to you, not waiting to reply, not checking their phone, not distracted, scanning the room for someone more interesting, just there, breathing with you, hearing you, holding a space wide enough for you to unfold. Do you remember how it felt, like you weren't invisible anymore, like for once the noise of the world had stopped and you were allowed to exist fully? That's presence. And that is the second reason love takes root. Because presence is rare. We live in a world of fractured attention, of eyes glued to glowing screens, of conversations that only skim the surface. Most people are starved of presence, starved of being seen, heard, noticed without condition. And when you give this gift, when your attention lands fully on someone, it feels like sunlight on frozen skin. It melts the loneliness. It breaks the trance of invisibility. It makes the other person remember that they are alive. This is why some of the most powerful connections don't begin with beauty or attraction at all. They begin with listening, with stillness, with the courage to be nowhere else but here, now, with another human being. Presence is not flashy. It doesn't announce itself, but it is unforgettable. Because in a world where everyone is busy pretending, the one who is fully present becomes impossible to forget. And here's the secret. Presence is not about effort. It isn't about saying the right thing or making the perfect impression. It's about surrendering distraction, about letting go of the restless need to be elsewhere and daring to give your full attention to the person before you. People don't fall in love with your presence because of what you do. They fall in love because when you are present, they feel safe enough to reveal the parts of themselves they usually hide. They feel whole again. And in that wholeness, love quietly blossoms. So the second reason is this: they fall in love with you because you are there, truly there, when the rest of the world is not. If you want to keep exploring truths like this, subscribe now. Each week, we dive deeper into the spaces where real connection and real love are born. When both reasons meet, you know now the two reasons people fall in love: the way they feel about themselves when they are with you, and the power of your presence, the rare gift of being truly seen. Alone, each is strong. But together, they create something unshakable. Think of it like two rivers meeting. One carries freedom, the feeling of being alive, unmasked, untamed. The other carries stillness, the sanctuary of presence, of knowing you are not alone. When these two streams join, the current is unstoppable. That's what makes love last. Not appearances, not the adrenaline of novelty, not the fragile spark of physical attraction, but this deeper alchemy, freedom and presence flowing together. Because when someone feels free to be themselves with you and at the same time feels completely seen by you, they cannot help but return. It isn't choice anymore, it's home. Think of the moments you've tasted this, the laughter that felt effortless, the silences that weren't heavy but full, the eyes meeting without needing to look away. That's what happens when the two reasons meet. And notice something. It doesn't take perfection to give this gift. You don't need to be beautiful. You don't need to be rich. You don't even need to be endlessly interesting. You only need to be present enough to let the other person breathe and secure enough to let them feel more themselves around you. It sounds simple, almost too simple, and yet it's the rarest thing in the world, because most people are either absent, lost in distraction, performance, self-absorption, or they make others feel small, unseen, unworthy. To embody both presence and freedom is to step outside the game entirely, and in doing so, you become unforgettable. This is why relationships built on these two reasons outlast storms. Because no matter how life changes, no matter what fades with time, people will always return to the place where they feel most themselves and most seen. That place can be you, but it asks for courage. The courage to stop performing. The courage to stop chasing attention. The courage to sit still and open, letting another human being exist fully in your presence. When both reasons meet, love becomes less of a pursuit and more of a recognition, a remembering, a quiet knowing. Here, I am alive. Here, I am seen. And once someone tastes that, nothing else compares. So now you know. The two reasons. The only two that matter. Not beauty, not money, not the endless performance you've been taught to perfect. But freedom. How someone feels about themselves when they're with you, and presence. The way you allow them to be seen fully without judgment. This is the ground of real connection. This is what outlasts time, what survives disappointment, what makes love more than a spark that burns out in the wind. And maybe, as you hear this, a quiet sadness arises, because you see how often you've chased the wrong things. How much energy you've spent polishing a mask rather than uncovering what was already here. But this is not a loss. This is a return, because now you know where to begin. It doesn't start with becoming more attractive. It doesn't start with earning more. It doesn't start with convincing anyone to choose you. It starts with presence. It starts with listening. It starts with giving another person the silent permission to breathe more deeply in your company. And the paradox is this: when you stop chasing, when you stop performing, when you simply allow yourself to be here, love arrives on its own, not as something you capture, but as something you create. Remember, nobody is really falling in love with you. They are falling in love with themselves in your presence. And if you can give that gift again and again, you will never need to beg for affection. It will return to you naturally, because people are always drawn to the places where they feel most alive. So the invitation is simple. Be here. See others fully. Let them feel free with you. This is the quiet power you already hold. The power to create love without performance, without illusion. The power to stop being invisible and instead to become unforgettable. And as this reflection closes, maybe the question is no longer, how do I make someone love me? But rather, what space do I create in the lives of those who cross my path? Because love is never a possession, it is a mirror, and the one who dares to hold it with presence, with freedom, becomes the one we cannot help but love.